When I first saw the word rhetoric, I wondered, why the heck is there an H in the word? H in rhetoric reminds me that the concept of rhetoric, to use the vernacular of the 2000s, is hecka misunderstood, potentially even by you. Why is that? To answer this question and to help reduce the misunderstanding, we'll go through a few definitions and a very brief history lesson, ending with some thoughts on rhetoric from philosophers and my approach of how to view rhetoric. In Greek, the word rhetor means a master or teacher of rhetoric, an ancient Greek orator. That gives us a clue that rhetoric relates to speaking in public. Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines rhetoric as, and I'm summarizing, speaking or writing effectively or skillfully based on the teachings of ancient scholars primarily for persuasive purposes. You'll notice this definition adds two aspects. Rhetoric can include writing, not just public speaking as was the case 25,000 years ago, and it is used for a purpose, which Merriam-Webster suggests is persuasion. You'll find definitions extend the purpose beyond persuasion to inform or motivate. This seems fairly clear, so where is the misunderstanding? For that, let's look further down Merriam-Webster's dictionary to the also part, insincere or grandiloquent language. I had to look that one up. With words like lofty, pompous, and bombastic, grandiloquent language is definitely not positive. For the sake of consistency, let's check a few more. The Oxford Learner's Dictionary, where the negativity continues with a single definition. Formal, often disapproving, speech or writing that is intended to influence people, but is not completely honest or sincere. Glance at their examples. All negative. One more. Vocabulary.com. While only half of their 4 examples are negative, high-flown style, excessive use of verbal ornamentation, that's a mouthful, and loud and confused and empty talk, their little quiz on the right gives 3 relatively negative answers, including grandiloquence. So let's check the synonyms, again thanks to Merriam-Webster. If the trend towards a mixture of neutral or positive to negative continues, we should expect to see a blend here too. Unfortunately, that is definitely not the case. Every one of the 15 synonyms, with the possible exception of jazz or verbiage, is negative. Come on! Drivel? Really? The reason for this cynical view of rhetoric can be traced back to about 2400 BCE, when the sophists entered the scene. This is our brief history lesson, and it is brief. Please forgive me for skipping over a whole lot of what happened in ancient Greece. I'm just focusing on the basics. In Greek, sophos refers to a wise man, with the verb sophizo meaning to instruct or to make learn. The sophists, then, were teachers who instructed others in a variety of subjects, including the art of persuasive speaking. However, their services were quite pricey, so only the wealthy could benefit. The sophists were accused of focusing on elocution and style to the detriment of content, and were even accused of being unethical by philosophers like Plato, Cicero, and Aristotle. Hopefully you've heard of at least one of these philosophers. The sophists believed that the best orators should prevail, regardless of what the truth actually was. They were the ones who gave rhetoric a bad name. It's no surprise then that the definition of sophistry, according to vocabulary.com, is a deliberately invalid argument in the hopes of deceiving. This is the word that justifies the negative connotation, not rhetoric. This meant that those in power, who could read and write and afford to pay those high prices for the sophist's instruction in the art of rhetoric, became the better speakers, who, in turn, could win arguments and succeed. For those who believed in truth, the term rhetoric became tainted and further strengthened the power structure between the haves and the have-nots. Let's extend this history lesson to what we talk about today. Remember those 3 philosophers I mentioned earlier? Plato, Cicero, and Aristotle? Their definitions of rhetoric did not carry the negative connotations. Plato called rhetoric the art of enhancing the soul, or winning the soul by discourse, and should be used to convey truth. Cicero believed rhetoric was speech designed to persuade, claiming it is one great art composed of 5 lesser arts. But many of us in the communication field cite Aristotle's definition of rhetoric. If we look at his classic book, Rhetoric, written in 350 BCE, and the one I'm using is translated by W. Rise Roberts, He takes a long time to explain the subject, finally distilling it to one sentence. Rhetoric may be defined as the faculty of observing in any given case the available means of persuasion. Aristotle further defined three modes of persuasion, later referred to as ethos, pathos, and logos, often referred to as the rhetorical triangle. With a better understanding of what rhetoric is and the historical underpinnings and philosophers, I hope you accept my interpretation that, regardless of the theorists, rhetoric can be viewed as a tool, and I'm sure I'm not the only one with this view. Consider a chainsaw, which vocabulary.com defines as a power tool, but this tool can be used skillfully or clumsily. It can be used to build structures or create beautiful art. And unfortunately, it can be used to harm, or worse, as those chainsaw-wielding murderers in horror movies have shown us. Rhetoric is the same way. It can be used skillfully, for good or for bad. Either way, it's to our benefit to understand how it can be used and how we can use it ourselves, which is why there are many ways to analyze rhetoric, not just from the teachings of the ancient Greeks, which focus primarily on public speaking. Now, not only does rhetorical criticism analyze oral and written communication, it has expanded even further to analyze stories, social movements, and beyond. Keep studying this often misunderstood concept, and you'll improve as a rhetorician, both in terms of your use of it in your communication and evaluating others' use of it. And whenever you offer your opinion of someone else's rhetoric, please use an adjective before the word. Is it empty rhetoric? Impressive, fiery, unethical, or something else? And don't forget, if it's really unethical or empty use of rhetoric, you also have the option of using the phrase mere sophistry. We don't want to perpetuate the myth that rhetoric is always bad. Who knows? Maybe we can remove the hecka misunderstood aspect of that letter H, so that the H only reminds us that the meaning of rhetoric has a history.